Alright, so we're going to go over our Turkish getup, and we're going to start from the ground all the way up to the top position. So, first thing we're going to do is on our back, we're going to have the loaded arm up, and then that same leg is going to be up as well, okay? So, again, this is going to make nice flat contact with the floor with that foot. Your opposite leg, opposite arm are going to be out about 45 degrees from the body. You can adjust this a little bit as you start getting a little bit more comfortable with the movements and find the position that's going to be just right for your limb proportions. So some people it may be a little bit further out, some a little bit closer in. Just find what feels comfortable to get into the natural positions, okay? So from here, first thing I'm going to do is make a nice strong fist on this grounding arm so that I can push that into the floor like I'm trying to wedge myself in there. And then from here, I'm just going to rotate up onto that elbow position. So it's not a sit-up, it's literally you're just rotating, driving off this foot, driving through this elbow to rotate the torso up and through. When I'm here, I'm keeping a straight line from that elbow that's on the ground all the way up to the ceiling. What I don't want here is I don't want to have that pointy shoulder where I'm collapsing through my rib cage and shoulder here. We want to keep everything nice and engaged and active so we can keep those good solid lines of force, okay? Next thing I'm going to do is rotate this palm on the ground out just a little bit so that I can now come into a nice tall sit position by pulling that hand in, okay? Next thing we're going to do is plant this heel on that elevated knee and plant that palm. So we're going to drive our hips up towards the ceiling and then sweep that opposite leg under so that now I have a straight line between my palm, knee, and toe, and this opposite leg is now going to bisect it, okay? So I'm making kind of that T position. From here, I'm going to sit back towards my hips, so pushing away from that grounded palm, and come up underneath my load, okay? And then sweep this hip forward like so, okay? So now I'm in that 90-90 lunge position. And from here, I just want to drive my heel through the ground, push off that back toe, come up into standing to our top position, okay? So from this position, my eyes are forward. As I reverse back down, I'm going to take this opposite hand, hitting that opposite leg to remind me which one's going to step back. Okay, so I get into that lunge position again. Take that same hand, remind yourself to sweep that front knee open. So now I'm again making that kind of T position, right, with my legs. And so I'm going to trace this hand down the front of that thigh to come back into my T position on the ground, okay? So from here, I've got nice pressure on this heel, nice pressure on this palm, keeping everything in line. My eyes are now to where I'm looking up at the bell at all times, so that would be up here where my hand is, right, where the load is. And we're going to kick through, sweeping into a nice tall sit position, returning back to that, okay? So again, same thing. I'm really conscious not to let that shoulder come up by my ear. I want to keep that space. Active rib cage, shoulders down and packed, palms engaged with the ground. And then we're going to just rotate that palm and come down to that elbow position, okay? Same thing applies, not letting ourselves get into that collapsed shoulder or collapsed rib cage. And then last but not least, we're just going to roll back down to the ground, okay? So that's essentially our Turkish getup. Just so you can see a couple parts in particular at a kind of more of a close look. If we're taking a look at that transition from the floor to that kneeling position, or our kind of little lunge position, right? If I'm here, you see it from the side. When I'm in this position, when I'm making that transition to standing upright, I want to make sure that for one, my back toe is tucked, okay? I'm going to sit towards that heel and come up and under my load. So that way I'm not trying to go from here and just straight up. You'll see your load is going to start to move around on you and you can be a lot less stable. So instead it's get underneath, come directly up and under, and then make that rotation into your 90-90 lunge and come up to standing, okay? That's it. All right, really quickly just showing how the Turkish getup comes together with the kettlebell. First thing we're going to do, I'll show you on this side first so you can see the rack position. If I'm starting on the ground, I'm going to scoop my hand through the handle and get a nice neutral wrist first to start. So by that I mean when I'm racking that kettlebell, if you look at my wrist, it's not bent back like this with the weight of the bell. You'll see it You don't want that. So instead, we want to rest that kettlebell handle diagonally across that palm, nice and low in the hand. Wrap the fingers around, grip nice and tight with the pinky and ring finger. And then from here, from the side, we want it to be an unbroken wrist. So think about either knuckles to the ceiling, or you can think about throttling a motorcycle handle, okay? So either way, you just want to make sure that that wrist isn't breaking back like that, so you don't lose the integrity, okay? So when we set up on the ground, we're going to first make sure that we actually get that nice neutral position. We're going to rotate onto our back, and then with two hands, we're just going to press that bell into the starting position over our chest, okay? So now, so you can see it, the whole thing from a little bit better angle, I'll start facing away from you when I wrap it, but then when you see the movement, you'll have a better angle for the whole thing. So I start again on my side, just like we talked about. I'm going to rotate to my back, pressing up with two hands, making sure I have that nice neutral wrist. I'm going to drop my opposite arm, opposite leg out. Breathe in, exhale up into my first sit position. Okay? Now from here, we're going to rotate the palm, come up to the tall sit, eyes are on the bell, plant through the heel and palm, bringing the hips up, sweep that opposite knee under, so I'm nice in line. Okay? From here, I'm going to sit back towards my heel, come up underneath the bell, rotating that front leg forward in line now, so I'm going to lunge, and then coming up to my tall standing position. Now from here, I want to step back, opposite leg. Eyes go back to the bell. We're going to kick that hip open, sweep down to the floor, kick through, lower down to the elbow, and then curl ourselves down to the floor. Okay, two hands lower the bell, rotate to your side. So that's your Turkish get up, putting it all together with the kettlebell.